I just wanted to go home. I just wanted to go home and take a shower and eat some dinner and go into my bed. It had been a long day, and I just wanted to go home. So, when I heard the shouts coming from the other end of the train, I just wanted to take my headphones out of my pocket and jab them deep inside my ears and turn the music up and close my eyes and ignore it. On any given day, I have people shouting flecks of food into my face, threatening to smash my teeth out, and blaming me for stealing all their money and, in general, being a bad son to them. I am a nurse. More specifically, I'm a psychiatric nurse. I have treated patients as young as 4 and as old as 100. And I have this specific skill set. My specialty is something called de-escalation. I calm people down. I talk patients off a ledge. I see people at their most vulnerable, fearful, angry points, and I have to somehow convince them that everything is going to be okay. I broker small deals that stop chairs from going through windows. I'm a little bit like a hostage negotiator, but at times I'm both the hostage and the negotiator. It is not always glamorous, adventurous, or sexy. And it can be really hard. It can really take it out of you, and no matter how long I've been doing it, having someone stand in front of you for 20 minutes and shout every single mean thing they can think of to your face, it can hurt your feelings. But it's what I do. It's my job. It's what I'm good at. So when the shouting from the back of that train started to reach a fevered pitch, I pushed the headphones back in my pocket, and I knew it might be a while until there was the dinner and the bed and the shower. And as people from the train started urgently shuffling in the other direction, I stood up and walked toward the noise. And when I matched the pitch and tone of the voice with the face I saw, my heart sunk. It was Benny. Benny was a patient that I treated when he was 18, 3 years prior. He had his first psychotic break. And by the time we discharged him, he was stable. But it was clear that Benny was not doing so well. He was probably off his meds. And schizophrenia is a lifelong process that is never cured. And so this was a bad time for Benny. He was shouting to someone on the other end of the phone, probably his case manager, arguing that whatever they were trying to get him to do, he could not possibly do it because he had the wrong shoes. The previous night, someone had taken his shoes and replaced them with an exact replica of his shoes that were the same in every way, but were not his shoes. This might not seem important to you, but to him it had a sacred, absolute meaning. I'm not supposed to talk to patients outside of the hospital. Even if I acknowledge their presence before they talk to me, it's a breach of confidentiality, and it's a violation of their privacy. The best thing to do right then would have been to follow everybody else and walk with the crowd to the other side of the train. But he was so dirty. His hair was so messy. His eyes were tweaked, and his skin seemed to be covered with a thin sheet of grime all over it. I couldn't walk away from this. So I talked to him. His shouting It got higher and higher, and tears were welling up in his eyes, and he was about to explode. And so I began a process that I've done many times before. I said, "Hey, Benny. Hey, it's Matt. Do you remember me?" His eyes shocked up towards mine. And he didn't remember my name. He never remembers my name, but something registered. I could tell. The phone lowered a little bit from his ears, and his body relaxed just a bit. And I said, "Hey, it looks like you're having a hard time. It looks like someone's not listening to you. I hate it when somebody's not hearing what I say, so this must be really hard. But hey, look, I can listen to you. I have some time, and I want to hear what you have to say, so maybe we can talk." And the phone lowered further down, and the voice on the other end still errantly prattling off some logistics going unheard. And I said, "You know, Benny, you're scaring some people on this train, and it's because you're yelling. And I know you. I know how good of a guy you are, and I know you'd never want to scare anybody, so you must not realize you're yelling so loud, right?" And he shook his head, "Yes." And I said, "Do you think you could hang up the phone? Maybe we can make that call tomorrow." And he shook his head, "Yes," and ended the call. Now, look, if you're not supposed to talk to a patient outside of the hospital, you're definitely not supposed to buy them dinner. But I knew something very important about Benny. I knew that this man loved cheese ravioli, no marinara. And maybe, remember I broker these little deals, maybe if I can get this guy some ravioli, maybe we can get off this train without the police getting involved. So I asked him, "Hey, I'm kind of hungry. Are you hungry?" "Yeah." "Benny, do you want to get some ravioli?" "Yeah." So we exited the Blue Line and got off in the Belmont stop, and we walked to this diner that I used to go to in high school. And he ordered cheese ravioli, no sauce, tall glass of chocolate milk. And he inhaled it. And I said, "Are you still hungry?" He said, "Yeah." I said, "You want some more food?" "Yeah." And now, everyone here has thought of doing this. This is generally a restaurant taboo, but I said, "Do you want the same thing again?" "Yeah." So we got another plate of cheese ravioli, another glass of chocolate milk, scarfed it down. Now, I had asked him, because it takes a little bit of diplomacy, "How about we go to the ER? I'll walk with you to the ER." He was not having that. So I always wanted to be an ER nurse, When I was first in nursing school, I wanted it all. I wanted to have the paddles, shouting clear. I wanted to pull people off of helicopters. I wanted to make a makeshift tracheostomy with a ballpoint pen with George Clooney and a storm drain. But that's not the path I chose. I found out that my life and my work is on the psych unit. And on a psych unit, the successes are different. The timing is different, the pacing. There's a lot of slow conversations that are usually one-sided that involve a lot of listening. And there's the heartbreak of relapse and the little steps forward and the small, tiny successes of spoonfuls of food successfully chewed and swallowed. So he had a stomach full of food, and I said, how about we go home? Okay. He gave me his address. And now I'm walking to his house, and I'm thinking, oh man, what am I gonna say to this guy's mother? I mean, I met this woman 3 years ago, and I'm rehearsing this in my head, going, "Hi, do you remember me? Look, I found your son on the subway. He was acting like a lunatic, and so I brought him home. And please don't tell this to my boss because she's probably not going to be very happy about this." But as soon as the door opened and a woman's face that I saw, who I did not recognize, I immediately knew that I would not have to give that speech. because Benny no longer lived there. And his family, from what I had gathered in conversations, later that night, his family had moved away and Benny had burned just about all of his bridges. So we went back into the streets. You know, we have these boundaries as nurses, and they're there to protect us and to protect the patients, to make sure you don't get over-involved, to make sure that you don't lose your objectivity. But what good were these boundaries if they led to this guy having to be out in the cold? No, we were tethered. And we walked along the streets of Chicago, him a few paces behind me, muttering just a few words every once in a while, and I'd listen. And if anyone saw us, they would have thought that he was my younger brother. And I didn't know where we were going. But something in my subconscious must have formulated a plan, because after several hours of walking around, it led us to a men's shelter that I worked at in college. And they have very, very strict rules about who can stay. But I knew the manager, the guy who ran the place, and I worked out a deal to get Benny a bed there one night. And I set him up in his room, and I dug the meds out of his bag, and I did my best I could to come up with an evening dosage for him to take, and he took them. And I set aside some for the next day, and I wrote down a series of steps that he needed to do in the morning and left him a sheet of phone numbers that he needed to call. And I made him promise me to call his case manager and then to call his mom and apologize. And he said he would. And the conversation ended like many conversations do on a psychiatric unit, with just me saying, okay. And I stood up and I went toward the door. And just as I was about to cross the threshold of the door, he sat up in bed and he said, Matt, hey, I said, what is it, Benny? What is it? And I looked at him, and he looked at me, and I realized for the first time that night, that was the first time that we had really looked at each other. And he had tears welling up in his eyes, but they weren't tears of anger anymore. I could tell they were tears of relief. And I said, what is it? And he said, Matt, I just wanted to say, I just wanted to ask you if you're going to kill me. And I smiled and I said, no, Benny, I'm not going to kill you. You're safe here. The people here are really nice. You call those numbers in the morning, okay? Okay, I will. And I shut off the light and I walked down the hall. And as I walked down the steps out of that shelter, all I could think to myself was, yeah, he remembered my name. Thank you.